All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining. We really appreciate your time, and we're super excited for today's conversation with Jasmine Hopkins, who is a fantastic Dreambound alum. I'm going to let her introduce herself, but before we get going, I want to make sure everyone knows whether you're starting your class soon or you've just started. Remember that we are meeting on Thursdays at 5 p.m. Central Time to go through conversations like this and help you prepare for your job readiness and for the state exam. Next week, we'll be taking some time to work through everyone's resumes. So if you can and you haven't sent your resume to us yet, please make sure to do so. We're going to put an email in the chat for you guys to send that. But we are also super excited to introduce you to Kevin Ryland. So we're going to move on to that quickly. So just remember, join next week at the same time, as we'll keep these conversations going. Sometimes look a bit different, more interactive. But today we're going to give our alumni a lot of opportunity to share their experiences. If you haven't heard yet, please make sure to put your name in the chat to introduce yourself and to put any questions that you have for our panelists anytime. We'll make sure to incorporate it into today's discussion. Without further ado, then, I'm going to pass it over to Jasmine and then Kevin to introduce themselves. Thank you guys so much for coming.
Okay. So I am Jasmine, as Brendan said, and I am currently a student partner through Dreambound, and I started off just like you guys. I was going through the training process, going to school, training to be a CNA as well. I have only been certified for 6, going on 7 months. Dreambound has definitely been going through the journey with me, so it's been fun. I currently do reside in Dallas, Texas, and I am a CNA at Pleasant Valley in Garland. So yeah.
Thanks, Jasmine.
You're welcome.
Kevin, why don't you go ahead?
How's everybody doing? I'm Kevin. I went with Dreambound here in El Paso, Texas last year during COVID, good old times. So yeah, it was so much fun. Had a blast. Dreambound showed me a lot of different opportunities, which I actually ended up taking. I'm now working with the VA, Veterans Health Administration here in El Paso, in the medical field. After being in the Army 11 years as a combat medic, I decided to go ahead and stay that route and help out vets and whoever else I can help out. So I'm here to help everybody out as much as I can, especially anybody that wants to better themselves, whether you already have a career, whether you're starting your career, whether you're Dreambound and you keep bugging me, I'm here to help everybody. So we're going to have a good time, that's for sure. Demetrius, good to see you. Haven't heard from you in a while. You like ghosted me after I got out of Dreambound. Just kidding. I'm just kidding. Good to see you again, Joy. And it's a pleasure to meet everybody else.
Thanks, guys. So today we're going to spend some time talking through the preparation that these fantastic alumni took to pass their state exam, and then all the steps they took to find great starting points for their career. And to do that, I'm going to pass it over to Joy, who's going to moderate our discussion. We'll take questions from the audience as we go.
Alrighty, hello. So the first question that I have then is, how did you prepare for the state exam? And both Jasmine and Kevin can answer.
Okay. So how I studied for the state exam was, I tried to take an hour out of my day every day to study. Not every day did I get to study. I'm not going to say I did it every day. That was just a goal that I did set. Also throughout the class, I was like taking notes on different things from chapter 1 through 10 that I got to go back and re-study and look at. And then I also watched the prometric videos on YouTube for like the skills portion, which gave me an opportunity to like get hands-on about what I would be doing necessarily with the skills. So, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So there's a couple of things that I use. There's an app that's called CNA Master, but you have to be able to kind of cipher what is good and what is bad. So you kind of take what you've learned and look at your resources and kind of balance the two of them. The Prometric videos, like Jasmine said at YouTube, is really good help because that's what they passed during my training session. So to be able to watch the hands-on exactly word for word and be able to kind of practice the step by step, because the muscle memory is always better than trying to remember everything. So muscle memory, you're going to automatically do that. So practice like you do in real life, just because it's constant. So watching those videos, doing the hands-on, performing it yourself is really a key. And so, and if it wasn't that, it was leaning on your support team, your class members, to have that physical help, like whether you can practice on somebody or whether somebody was helping you, like if you got stuck on a step for your evaluations, to say, okay, so remember, you know, if they're trying to remember a step, maybe put it in order or stuff like that, just certain different tips, because people have different ways of learning.
Awesome. Thank you so much for those tips. I hope that they were helpful for different people, no matter what your learning style is. The next question that I have for you is, how did Dreambound help you along in that process of studying and preparing for your state exam?
Dreambound for me, because I had a lot going on already, Dreambound kind of kept me on pace. My mentor at the time was Demetrius, who did an awesome job, even though I took a lot of his time. He did an awesome job. I mean, we won't hold it against him. He's a Browns fan. It's okay. But he did an awesome job keeping me on pace, not getting me too long-winded, and making sure I had my task at hand completed.
Definitely to piggyback off what Kevin said. Brandon was actually my mentor slash coach. He did very well at answering any questions. He got back in a timely manner with answering any groups or any text messages I sent out, whether it was late or early in the morning. Also took the time out to make sure that we had those Zoom meetings all the time. I was studying with the videos that we had with our presentations and everything. So he gave me a lot of different options and different ways to study, and he also was a big part of it as well. So, yep.
Good. I'm glad to hear it. When you began working as a CNA, will you talk a little bit about your first day? Was it similar to clinicals and what you had practiced, or was it completely different?
I would say some similar and some different, depending on which skill it was. For the most part, it was basically the same, because I mean, like, if you're making an occupied bed, the same way that you would practice it in your skills is the same way you would do it physically, with a resident. So I would say some are the same, some are different, I guess, because now some places that you work at do make a lot of changes, but for the most part, they were actually the same.
Mine was totally different. Everything I did had nothing to do with what I just learned for the last 6 weeks. So it was totally different, because everybody's going to have their policy or their procedures, their standard procedures. And so for the nursing home, it was always, if you had it, like, always make sure the door was closed. And it was like certain things. I mean, there's just different stuff because of just procedures and inspection and how they get through the audits and all that other stuff. So the steps were a little bit different. The discipline was a little bit different. And so it just kind of, it's for its own personal integrity.
I love the fact that you guys both became successful with totally different experiences. This is one of those things that I hope that CNA training will help everyone do. Kevin's often put it best that CNA training gives you whatever you need to know for your future. And I think that's really true with nursing, especially because these guys manage to do that and more with their jobs. I wanted to take us back to another question around the state exam. This one comes from Adam, and it is, what study method did you find the most useful for the state exam? You guys mentioned the time you put in, but what approach would you guys say helped you the most?
So for the state exam, sorry, go ahead, Jasmine, ladies first.
I was gonna say with the skills portion, I was actually studying while I was waiting to do my skills portion. The CNA Prometrics, since the videos were like, you had them in hand, and you have to, depends on, you know, what time you make it or whatever, you do have to wait a little bit to take it. So it gave me a little more oomph because I had time to study while I was sitting there waiting. With the written, I just studied the night before. I made sure I went to sleep at a timely manner, make sure I got a good sleep, ate a good breakfast, and then not thought too hard about it, because I do let my nervousness get the best of me sometimes, but I feel like if you study the way you're supposed to and make sure you get a good sleep and eat a good breakfast, that definitely helped me with the written.
Yeah, definitely. You're on the written, it's kind of what you do best, you know, your medical terminology, the skills. Once you do it hands-on, like once you're comfortable and confident in it, it kind of is like, just don't overthink it. Keep it simple. It's probably with your gut on the first thing. You start overthinking it, and if you break it down, you can probably find a different answer, and that's not what you want to do. So, but skills wise, I would, yeah, just once you work on hands-on and keep it step by step and keep it simple, yeah, I think you can get through that pretty easy. The written test isn't that hard because they don't change the wording of it too bad. It's not like a trick question in there. It's just, if you overthink it, it gives you room to come up with a different answer.
And kind of as a follow-up to that, for those skills portions, what were ways that you were able to practice, like outside of class, outside of clinicals, you know, just on your own personal time, since a lot of the skills do require, you know, interaction with another person, and especially during, you know, COVID, how were you able to practice for those skills?
If you have siblings or kids, they love it, especially younger ones. They love being the patient. And so you know, you just don't act like you're doing CPR on them, because, well, they like that too. But just you know, just interact with what you can. But if you have to study on yourself, just act like something's there. Whether, I mean, just know parts, like just break the bed down, like, okay, this person's head's going to be over here. What's the head going to look like? Oh, I have to adjust the pillows, or oh, I have to lift up side rails, or oh, I have to put down side rails, or I have to close the curtain. Just run yourself through it. Whether you have somebody to do it on, or whether you're doing it with just your hands, going through the motions on which part of the bed you're going to be at. Obviously, if you're working on brushing their teeth, you're not going to stand at the foot of the bed, or if you're, you know, repositioning them or something, you're not going to stand at the, you know. So just, you would know once you start working around it on just your body mechanics on where you're going to be, and in the bed is kind of like, at the bed is where you're going to know like your surroundings and kind of just run through your steps, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so definitely having somebody there, and not necessarily having like a human being. If you have a stuffed animal or something that you want to use, you can definitely use that too. I'm more hands-on, so I did take a lot of time physically doing it and also watching the videos at the same time. So that's how I took time outside of you know, Brandon in school, doing it just by myself.
I have a follow-up question on that. This one comes from Adam again. Which skills did you guys find you needed more study time to master, to know well?
I would say the respiratory and the pulse. That's what I had a hard time on, but turns out when it was actually time for me to be certified, we were no longer doing that. So I stressed myself for nothing. But I definitely took a lot of time with respiratory and pulse. I think those were kind of like the hardest two for me. Everything else was kind of like smooth sailing. But thank God we don't have to do respiratory and pulse because I don't know what I would be doing right now.
Yeah. Yeah, those, obviously washing your hands is the easiest because everything you do, you wash your hands before and after pretty much. So it's kind of it's easy to remember, you know what I mean? If you do it the right way. I think it's hard to say because I had so much experience in the medical field already. So it really depends on if you're coming in brand new on how much medical knowledge. So it depends on the person on which skills. Because if you're looking into anything as simple as positioning, it's going to be something basic. And that's usually what it is that it's just the steps. So it doesn't matter what skill it is that they'll dock you on that certain step that's missed or whatever. But I think, it's hard to say on mine because I don't want to brag, but I passed with flying colors on most of it. So, but on trouble wise, I think a lot of people had the, like I said before, it's practice as you do in real life. And my training center didn't have side rails on their bed. They didn't have a good curtain that was functional. So with that being said, like, it's just remembering those steps and remember, like, because when you get into the real world, it's not something. And so it's just really the ethics part of it, the negligence part of it, and remembering those steps to get through those skills itself. They come a lot easier than you think. And if, like I said, don't overthink it because it's actually pretty easy if you just really like set yourself up into a rhythm to go through step by step.
Okay. And I saw that there was a question in the chat asking about if you passed the first time. I know, Kevin, you just said that you did, but Jasmine, did you pass your test the first time that you attempted it?
I did actually. Only thing is that I did not like is I didn't get my results for the written test. I did my written test first, and then a couple of days later I did my skills. And then like a week later, I believe I just got an email saying, congratulations, you're certified. So I never got my scores, but yes, I did pass the first time.
Awesome.
Yeah, exactly. They don't give you the scores. It's more of a pass or fail. It's just that it's how you feel when you leave it. You know, you blew it out the water, or you bombed. It's just kind of if you're confident, you stay confident in your answers, I'm sure you'll do just fine.
I was definitely confident. I was confident in everything that I did, but it was just the knowing part. It was, am I going to get the email? Am I going to see what my test scores was? But I think it's just that the nerves get the best of everybody. So you just have to make sure that you're calm going into a situation like that. Otherwise, you'll overthink yourself and then you'll end up failing. So it's all about calmness, So yeah.
Awesome. Brandon, were there any more relevant questions for now in the chat?
I think the last one around the state exam was, how long did you guys study for the state exam before you took it? When did you first start? How much time would you give yourself between now and the state exam?
So for mine, like after the class of 6 weeks, I think my state exam, because of COVID, got delayed a little bit, but it usually comes up right away. I think I got it even with COVID a couple weeks after. And so it wasn't too long of a time. And I mean, I'd rather get it done right after the class as soon as I can. So that way you're not forgetting stuff or letting stuff relapse. And that way you're kind of still fresh in the mindset of trying to get it done. But so usually you get it quickly after that 6 week or after that last week of class.
Yeah, so I think I studied up until it was time for me to go take it. So I think it was from when I finished to when I scheduled it, I think it was like maybe 4 or 5 days in between time. So I definitely studied up until it was time for me to go take it. So
Awesome. And these guys both were model students, you know, and they use different methods, they use different styles, and they both aced the exam. So I hope that shows you guys that any way you study, you know, you're studying and you're taking time to prepare yourself. There's lots of wisdom in what they shared. There are lots of better ways to study, but there's nothing quite like studying to get you prepared for the state exam. And thanks, Adam and Jerry, for your questions. You've been great. Keep them coming.
Yeah. The next question then I had is kind of about after you pass your exam, and again, what it's like working as a CNA. So the question is, what surprised you most about being a CNA?
So I think what surprised me the most was the difference between caregiver and CNA, because I didn't know. I thought that they were both the same. I was new to it, being in the medical field and doing CNA and everything. So while I was actually still going to school studying to get my CNA certificate, I landed a caregiver job, which was totally different than what a CNA was. So please make sure that whenever you are applying for any job, if it says caregiver, figure out if that's what you want to do, caregiver or CNA, because they're two totally different things. That definitely shocked me going into it, because the caregiver is sort of like a sit around nanny or something, not to knock nannies or whatever, but that's kind of what it is. You don't really get a feel of what to do with the patient, how to take care of them and things like that. And I really wanted to experience being a CNA, so I had to let that job go because it wasn't for me. But that was one of the things that shocked me. Other than that, it's been a pretty smooth road since I've been at the job that I'm at now.
Yeah, the thing that shocked me is that, so I got hired on before I took my state exam. While I was in the end time of training, that's probably in my 4th week, and I got hired on as a CNA at a nursing home here in El Paso. And the thing that shocked me is that not only did they hired me on as a hospitality aide until I got my certification, so then they told me that they would pay me more as a CNA. But what shocked me is that I got in to help people and make people feel good, make their lives better. And I started seeing stuff that, wait a minute, because they had their procedures, and because it was a nursing home to make their jobs easier, the kind of caring for the person just kind of went out the window, if that makes sense. So I didn't really like it here in that nursing home. So you really got to do your research when you're trying to find a job on seeing if you can find out if people like it working there, or how it was. Sorry, I dropped the mic when I didn't mean to. But to see how it was and stuff like that. So make sure that you just really do your research on where you work. I know sometimes people have to take what they get offered. But I mean, sometimes it's just as simple as a diaper, and sometimes the guy just wanted to go to the bathroom because they still have their sense of pride, and you're not allowed to move them onto the toilet or anything. You just gotta have to let them do their thing. And here in El Paso, you have to know Spanish, and this white boy doesn't know Spanish very well, so I didn't know how to tell him just to do his thing. So it's procedures. And so my biggest key is to do research on where you're going to work, because that was my biggest surprise, is that I don't know how to treat people badly and not let them do what they want. So.
And kind of as a follow-up to that, will you both share what type of facility you currently work in, and how you feel about that facility?
So I currently work at a rehabilitation center. It's not necessarily a nursing home because it's for short-term and long-term. Mostly people come that need rehab to get back to their normal selves. So they're there for maybe a week or two, and then they end up leaving. We do have some patients that are there for long-term. I've worked with dementia patients. I've worked with Let's see, I work with a lot of different patients actually. I love it there. I work there. I'm there every day, basically. Every time I'm on a call with Brandon or I'm on a call with Dreambound, I'm always in my scrubs because I'm always at work. It's to the point where, I pick up a lot of overtime, and it's not just because of the money, but it's because you start to get a feel of the relationship with the residents as well. So it's like, you want to see them, or you want to be able to make sure that they're being taken care of in the proper way that you would do it. I've actually been there since I left that caregiver job. And Brandon actually helped me get on. We wrote a cover letter together, and it ended up landing me the job, and I've been there ever since. I think it's going on like 5 or 6 months. I've been certified for 7 months, so I've been there for 6 months.
Yeah, so mine, since I'm with the veterans, I like helping vets no matter what. You get to all different walks of life. And so they've all been through their experience and they all want to share it. I don't have to know Spanish as much, so I'm okay there. Don't worry, I'm learning poquito. I got a little bit, but still no entiendo. No, I'm just kidding. Okay. Gotcha. But anyways, but I like it. Like, it's a government, so I get off at 4:30 every day, sometimes earlier. I get the weekends and holidays off, and I laugh at people that have to work overnight shifts at the nursing home in the weekends. So like I said, and it's not even about being a CNA. It's the CNA role could lead you to better and, brighter things if that's what you want to do. We have, I know people that are CNAs for so many years and they like it. And then, sorry, I was reading that question. But yes, and so you can start as a CNA and then move your way up, because it just gives you that basis of knowledge that you need to start at, like medical ethics, how to treat patients, how to handle patients, how to deal with aggressive patients, how to deal with just your professional side of things that really can tie your hands when it comes to legalities and dealing with medical field. So yeah, because right now I'm actually working in a lab as a lab tech, and I don't have a lab tech certification, but because of my medical knowledge of being a CNA, transferring patients, so I have to transfer patients from wheelchairs to the lab chairs, draw blood, and certain stuff like that. It just, CNA was a great start for me to add to my medical toolbox.
Jasmine, do you want to take that question on whether it's best to start as a CNA before being a med aid?
Yes. So I'm not technically sure if it's best to be a CNA before, because I haven't really experienced it. But in my opinion, I feel like you should go for the CNA role first, which I do actually have a goal set, because I don't want to just be a CNA. Not that I don't like it. I love it. But my goal is to be an RN. And I've already planned ahead of time that I'm going to be a CNA from 6 months to a year. And then go into getting my med aid license and then start school for RN. So I honestly think it's best to start out as a CNA, so that way you get a feel of it. And then you're always able to go back to the CNA role once you get your med aid license. So you don't always have to be like, oh, I'm just passing out meds all the time. I'm really tired of it. I don't want to do it. You always have the option of going back to being a CNA. If med aid is something that you don't like, and you don't have your CNA certification, I think it's just, I would say it's going backwards, because CNA is something you would start off with first, and then med aid. So I technically think it's better for you to start off CNA, so that way you get a feel of it. You get to actually watch the med aids that you work with as well. So once you become a CNA, you can work your way up to becoming a med aid.
Awesome. There was
real
one
quick
more
on
question.
that one. Sorry,
Yeah.
Brendan. Real quick on that one is that the CNA opens up options for you to go into more of nursing. Medical assistant kind of puts you sometimes in a niche that, because you haven't had that nursing ability, and because your medical assistant's more like being in a doctor's office, starting their vitals, starting their whatever, and you can't really touch the patient. CNA puts that hands on the patient, that you're caring for the patient. And sometimes some schools will open up for you to get your LVN, RN, and go into a higher paying medical job than medical assistant, because medical assistant almost makes, I mean, CNAs on medical assistant, they're not much difference on payroll. So.
Nice point. You guys have shared a ton of wisdom already, and I hope everybody continues to keep asking questions here, because I think these questions have yielded some of the best conversations so far. I have one more question from Adam. Which job website did you find the most useful for finding CNA positions?
I know it's gonna kind of sound like I had it easy, but I didn't. I didn't actually have to look on any websites for a job. Yes, I was searching CNA jobs on Google, but the school that I went to, which is Vine Press off of Forest Lane in Dallas, they are actually really good at letting you know what jobs are hiring, especially jobs that they're familiar about, and jobs that they, you know, have the chance to actually know what's going on inside those facilities. So my teacher actually told me about the job that I'm at now. So it made it really easy for me to get on. So I didn't necessarily have to look up any CNA jobs, but, you know, while I was waiting on an interview and, you know, a call back for whatever, I was looking up CNA jobs on Google, but that's what I was typing in, literally CNA jobs.
On that one, a lot of things you have to do is you have to be careful with the wording of the job. Sometimes the jobs will list it differently, and so the biggest thing is Dreambound is going to help you with Indeed. You always want to stick with Dreambound. They'll help you with your testing, because on Indeed you can actually take a test on your skills test. So if you brush up on your medical knowledge, it'll let you take a test on your skills test to say that, hey, I'm qualified in this. This is what I rated on this test. So when they look on Indeed, they can see how you rated on that test. And it's usually basic skills or basic knowledge, or the higher your medical knowledge is, it can add to your resume on Indeed. So Indeed's one of the best when you're working, especially with somebody like Dreambound, to help you out with resumes, and they even help you with just putting it on Indeed job postings. When I got into the federal system, USA Jobs listed everything as like a medical technician, but yet it would say medical technician hyphen phlebotomy, medical technician hyphen lab tech, medical technician hyphen medical assistant. And so when you search those words, they didn't pop up because the job title is medical technician. So you just kind of have to really look into it. And that's the same thing. Do your research and really kind of be proactive on looking for that stuff on just different keywords that might be effective.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I actually just have a couple more pre-written questions. Of course, if there are any more questions from any of the audience, then we'll definitely try to get those answers as well. But in continuing about talking about your job, do you have, well, first, what was the interview process like for getting hired at your current job?
So I actually started off like in the middle of COVID. So when I did my interview process, of course, I got a call from the HR lady. We set up an interview time or whatever, and I had went to the place. And instead of like sitting down in the office or somewhere, I actually had to stand outside because they were not allowing people in the building. We went through the interview. She was basically asking me different questions about what shift I would prefer to take. Of course, I was asking questions as well as like, what's the CNA to patient ratio? Do they offer overtime? You know, what's the pay? Different things like that. After going through like the question process, of course, I had to go through a drug screening and background check as well. Everything went by smoothly. So I believe like 3 or 4 days later, I got the call that I would be starting orientation. So I've been there ever since.
Yeah, for mine, it was more me asking questions, because since we're so short CNA's period, because nobody wants to like start there, they all want to aim high and go for RN, and then they fail out of nursing school and they end up settling for something else. That's why I think you need to start with CNA first, kind of get into the groove of how to do things. Because at the nursing homes or at the hospitals, guess what? You work with nurses, so you can lean on them for support too, especially if you're going to try to go into nursing school. And it just makes your network bigger. So, but the interview process was more me asking questions because I didn't want to get stuck in a spot I didn't want to be at. And they were pretty much like, when can you start? Like, you have your resume speaks for itself, blah, blah, blah. And like, we need you tomorrow because we're so shorthanded. And it was COVID, and I was standing outside while the family's looking through the window, waving at their family member on the inside. And it was kind of weird, but it was a start while I was in school and to try to make it work. And it worked out. So it was good. But so I wouldn't stress too much about the interview process. I'm not going to say you're automatically going to get a job, but they're so shorthanded. CNAs usually, they want you and you just don't know it. So you need to make them want you more, because you need to make them want to pay you your right pay and not settle for being low paid. And but make sure that you don't come off too crazy.
That being said, do you have any interview advice for any of the aspiring CNAs?
Yeah, let me start with that one. Okay, interview advice. The biggest thing, be yourself. Calm down. Don't get all nervous. They put their pants on the same way you do. Okay. Now, some of us are exceptional, like Brandon. He likes to put them 2 legs on a time. He just jumps in every morning. He's always prepared. But no, everybody else, they like to put their pants on the same way. They did the same thing you did this morning. They're all got a job. They had to be at an interview process where it's somewhere in their life, so they all know what you're going through. Just be yourself. So don't worry about the nerves, because it shows. And it's the biggest thing is, can you handle pressure? Well, interviews pressure. If you're nervous, they know that, wait a minute, this is a busy time. If you can't handle an interview, you're not going to be able to handle pressure, and it might look bad. So just be yourself. Talk about your resume if you want, but same thing. Keep it short and sweet. They don't need to know everything right off the bat, and then they'll bring you along for sure.
Definitely ask questions as well. The main thing that you would probably want to know is the CNA to patient ratio, because sometimes you get those facilities that are really short staffed and they have you like caring for 13 patients with 5 people who need showers one day and 4 people who need to be fed, and it's all stuck on you. So you're trying to rush to do certain things. So definitely make sure that you ask that, as well as looking up whatever the job that you're interested in. Make sure that you do research on it, so that way you know like what type of activities or how the visits go, things like that. And whatever you're interested in, always be willing to open up, ask different questions, because you may not see something that you like on their website that they may actually offer. So don't be afraid to research and ask questions when you're in that interview.
Always ask questions. Jasmine's so right. Always ask questions, because if you go in there and you say, oh, there's no questions, or if you go in there and say, they want to be like, where do you want to be in 5 years? You're like, I want to be right here. Doesn't look good. So always ask questions to move higher, or always ask questions like, how do I get promoted, or how do I become where you're at, or something. I don't care, whatever it may be. But looking like you're interested in what they're doing is a lot better than trying to make them interested in you. So always ask questions.
Thanks. That was really awesome advice. That's all the questions I have. Brandon, are there any more in the chat?
I don't see any, but there's one more chance to give questions if you would like. And if not, we owe both Jasmine and Kevin a huge thank you and a round of applause for all the effort they put in today to share their wisdom and give you guys a lot of knowledge. Thank you, guys.
There's that question in the chat about how you should dress for the interview.
Oh, I missed that. That's a great question.
No, you're all right. You're all right. So I just saw it pop up. But the biggest thing of dressing for an interview is dress to impress, right? So, I mean, not all of us can look as sharp as Joy and Brandon. You know what I mean? They always come ready to go. But that does with feedback. I think I saw Brandon show up in a white t-shirt like me. No, I'm just kidding. I wear a lab coat at work, and so I wear a t-shirt, but I have my scrub pants on because I just got off of work. But as you can see, Jasmine's in her scrubs. So if you're in scrubs, guess what? They know you're ready to work. You know what I mean? If you're in a suit or if you're dressed to impress, because when I showed up for my interview at CNA, I had 3 different colors of scrubs and said, hey, which color do I wear? And I can start right now. And they were like, wait a minute, like that's cool but we'll start you tomorrow. And it doesn't matter what color scrubs, but some places will make you have a certain color to know that you're an employee or whatever. So whether you're working to be ready for work and you're prepared, and that shows something, whether you're dressed to impress and they see that you clean up nicely because they want you to be professional, then they can do that too. So it really depends on the job, but usually dress to impress, but be prepared to you can start whenever you want. That way it looks like, hey, you're willing to help out wherever needed.
I also did the business casual thing or whatever as well. I wasn't too fancy, too dressed up, but I did, like Kevin said, dress to impress. And then during orientation is when I actually went in wearing scrubs. They said you don't technically have to wear scrubs, but I went in there wearing scrubs and I was the only one. But yeah, just dress to impress, dress business casual. Nothing too revealing, no sandals, things like that. But, make sure you're dressed to the T, present yourself, how you think that they want you to be presented.
Nice, guys. I'd love to do one quick thing before we go, just because, we'll share a few announcements. I'm going to, Adam, Jerry, promote you guys to panelists so that everybody can see each other and we can take a quick picture. But again, want to thank you guys for the time. It was really fun. And you guys gave great advice.
Yes, the advice you gave was phenomenal. So thank you guys so much for being here and sharing your words of wisdom for aspiring CNAs.
So we're going to see everybody.
Hopefully I didn't fail that test too bad.
Not at all. Let's grab a quick picture. Let's see. All right. Everybody here? I think we're missing Jerry. Oh, Jerry, if you could turn your camera on just for a second. All right, when you can. While we're waiting, Adam, would you like to introduce yourself? Because hopefully you guys will have a chance to work together, stay in conversation.
Yeah, hi, I'm Adam Conan. I'm doing my CNA because I do want to go for nursing school eventually. So hearing what you two said about being a CNA before registered nursing is actually really good to hear. I feel like I'm on the right track, so.
Thanks, Adam.
And Adam, good luck on on the nursing. Like I said, the biggest thing is CNA really teaches you the ethics of medical. I'm telling you, like it really, they really go. I mean, that's one of the biggest things I would study. It's not really tested on, but it is one of the biggest things that comes back to hurt people, and really because people are really handcuffed when it comes to medical legalities. And so CNA is a really good point, especially when it comes to nursing. You start administering medicines. It's a really good start to CYA, you know what I mean? So just to kind of cover you in the long run, okay? Yeah. So good luck with your nursing stuff.
Awesome,
Plus,
thank you, I appreciate it.
You work with med aides and nurses too. So it's not like, you're the only person in the building, like CNAs, different stuff like that. They do have med aides on the hallways too. They do have nurses. So you're able to like get a feel of what they do, watch them. Some people don't mind you asking questions or whatever. So you're going to get a feel of what you would be doing as far as a registered nurse, just by being a CNA, because you get to watch what everybody else that is, above you is doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's valuable. Awesome.
Jerry, do you want to introduce yourself? I don't think we can hear you yet. I think you might be muted. There you go.
Okay. Hi, I'm Jerry Hines. I'm a student at Taylor Medical Institute, and this is my 5th week, and I'm excited. And I have a real quick story if you guys got a few moments. I have a great aunt that's 97 years old, and she has some liver problems and heart problems. And I have been working at Greyhound, and I kind of like left Greyhound just, to become a CNA so I can help properly, take care of my great aunt. And she's just so excited that, a stranger doesn't have to come to the house to take care of her, and it's her nephew. And, so I'm really excited. And I've been, after school, every day after school, I go right over to her house and I'm, hey, let me check your blood pressure, hey, let me do some exercises on your arms or your legs or whatever. So I'm really excited that Dreambound, helped, cover the expenses for me to get into the school. And I'm just so excited to be a part of the medical field, you guys. It's great.
Yeah, that's awesome, Jerry. Like I said, I mean, that's awesome. 97 is great, especially if she's mentally there, you know what I mean? So, I mean, definitely you even get that bond when the workforce, but the CNA, I mean, for both of you is going to be great because, I mean, you use it in everyday life. Like my fiance's grandpa, he's 87 with dementia. He's in a wheelchair sometimes, but I'm the one that has to get him out of the wheelchair because I have a bunch of females around, you know what I mean? So, or it's her uncle, but it's usually like, hey, what's the proper technique? Because he used to be a boxer, and so his hands are all like distorted because of arthritis. And so a patient, not by their hands but underneath their arms, you know which one I'm talking about, right? To help them up off the bed. Well, that's the proper technique. So you're going to use it in everyday life. It might not be tomorrow or whatever, but it doesn't matter what you're going to do. If you come across that kind of generation, you're going to definitely need those techniques. So kudos to both of you for sure for starting the process. And Jerry and Adam, it was a pleasure meeting you guys. Okay,
same to you.
Thanks, guys.